The Rutherford Charity Gala glittered under 1,000 chandeliers, the kind of event where wealth wasn't just displayed, it was weaponized. Zara Monroe stepped through the arched entrance of the Grand Meridian Hotel, her arm lightly looped through her husband Nathaniel's. Her emerald green dress, simple but elegantly cut, hugged her frame without the ostentatious sparkle of the other guests' gowns. She felt the weight of every stare, the whispers curling like smoke around her. Who is she again? Nate's wife, right? From somewhere modest. The word stung, but Zara kept her chin high, her smile soft but unshakable. Nathaniel, Nate to her, squeezed her hand, though his eyes darted nervously to the crowd. "You look fine," he murmured, his voice more distracted than reassuring. Zara caught the undertone. Fine wasn't enough for the Rutherfords. She wasn't enough. Not yet. At the top of the marble staircase, Vivian Rutherford, Nate's mother, stood like a queen surveying her court. Her silver gown shimmered, and her diamond necklace could have funded a small country. Beside her, Harold Rutherford, Nate's father, exuded the quiet menace of a man who owned half the room without saying a word. Their eyes locked on Zara, and Vivian's lips twitched into a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Darling Nathaniel," Vivian called, descending a few steps to kiss Nate's cheeks. She turned to Zara, her gaze sweeping from head to toe. "And, Zara, how charming you look. So unassuming." Zara's stomach tightened, but she matched Vivian's smile. "Thank you, Vivian. Your necklace is stunning. It must carry quite a story." Vivian's laugh was sharp, like glass breaking. "Oh, it does. Family heirlooms always do. But you wouldn't know about those, would you?" The jab landed, and the nearby guests, sipping champagne and pretending not to listen, tittered. Nate shifted beside her, his hand slipping from hers. "Mother, let's not," he began, but Vivian waved him off. "Nonsense, Nathaniel. I'm only saying Zara's simplicity is refreshing. Isn't that right, Harold?" Harold's deep voice rumbled. "Indeed. A change of pace." His eyes, cold and calculating, met Zara's. She felt like a specimen under a microscope. "Thank you both," Zara said, her voice steady despite the heat rising in her chest. "I find simplicity leaves room for substance." A few guests raised eyebrows, and one woman in a ruby gown smirked, as if amused by Zara's audacity. Vivian's smile faltered, but she recovered quickly. "Well said. Come, Nathaniel, the mayor's waiting to meet you." As Vivian tugged Nate away, Zara stood alone, the crowd parting around her like water avoiding oil. She took a flute of champagne from a passing waiter, her fingers steady despite the tremor in her heart. She'd grown up in a cramped apartment, the daughter of a schoolteacher and a mechanic, worlds away from this gilded cage. But she'd fought her way into college, into a career, into Nate's heart. She belonged here, she told herself, even if no one else believed it. Across the room, she caught sight of a familiar face. Maya Trent, her childhood friend and now a discreet lawyer. Maya, dressed in a sleek black pantsuit, gave her a subtle nod from the bar. It was a reminder. Zara wasn't as alone as she felt. Behind her quiet grace lay a secret only Maya and one other person knew. A secret that could turn this glittering world upside down. The gala's dining hall was a spectacle of crystal and candlelight, each table adorned with orchids and gold-rimmed plates. Zara sat beside Nate, her napkin folded neatly in her lap, though she barely touched her salmon. The room buzzed with conversation, but she felt the weight of eyes on her, some curious, others cruel. Vivian and Harold presided at the head table, their laughter carrying over the clink of glasses. Halfway through the meal, Vivian rose, her glass of Bordeaux catching the light. The room hushed, all eyes on her. "A toast," she announced, her voice dripping with charm. "To the Rutherford legacy, class, elegance, and family standards we hope never get watered down." Laughter rippled through the room, sharp and knowing. Heads turned toward Zara, some guests not even bothering to hide their smirks. Nate chuckled nervously, his hand brushing hers under the table, but he said nothing. Zara's jaw tightened, but she kept her gaze on Vivian, refusing to flinch. "To standards," a man across the table echoed, raising his glass. His wife, dripping in pearls, leaned toward him and whispered, loud enough for Zara to hear, "She means the new Mrs. Rutherford, obviously." Zara's fingers curled around her glass, but she lifted it, her smile unwavering. "To standards," she said softly, her voice carrying just enough to reach Vivian. A few guests exchanged glances, surprised by her composure. Vivian's eyes narrowed, but she sat down, her mission accomplished. Nate leaned toward Zara, his breath warm against her ear. "She didn't mean it like that. You know how she is." "Do I?" Zara replied, her voice low but sharp, because it sounded like she meant every word. Nate sighed, reaching for his wine. "You're overthinking it. Let's just get through the night." Zara turned away, her chest tight. She excused herself, weaving through the tables toward the balcony. The cool night air hit her like a lifeline. She gripped the railing, staring at the city lights below, their shimmer blurring through unshed tears. Footsteps approached, and she tensed, expecting Nate. Instead, it was Maya, her presence calm but fierce. "You okay?" Maya asked, leaning against the railing. Zara exhaled, her breath visible in the chilly air. "They're not just rude, Maya. They're trying to erase me." Maya's eyes darkened. "Let them try. They have no idea who they're dealing with." Zara managed a small smile. "Not yet." Behind them, voices drifted from an open window. Vivian's was unmistakable. "She doesn't belong in our lineage, Harold. Nathaniel should have known better." Harold's reply was colder. "He'll learn. Or we'll make him." Zara's hands tightened on the railing, but she didn't turn. Maya touched her arm. "You hear that? That's their mistake. Keep your head up, Zara. We're closer than ever." Zara nodded, her resolve hardening. She wasn't here to play their game. She was here to change the board. Later that night, Zara sat in her private study, a small room in their penthouse that Nate rarely entered. The city skyline glowed through the window, but her focus was on the laptop screen. She opened a secure video call, and Maya's face appeared, her office lined with legal books and a single framed photo of them as kids, gap-toothed and grinning. "Ready?" Maya asked, her fingers poised over her keyboard. Zara nodded. "Show me." Maya shared her screen, displaying encrypted files labeled Trent Holdings. They were the legacy of Henry Trent, Maya's late uncle and Zara's mentor, a billionaire who'd seen potential in Zara when she was just a scholarship student. Henry had left her 51% of a parent company that controlled the software, logistics, and infrastructure powering the Rutherford empire. It was a secret he'd entrusted to Zara and Maya, knowing the Rutherfords would never suspect a low-class woman of such power. "Look at this," Maya said, pulling up a spreadsheet. "We've consolidated another 1% this week. You're at 52% now. Untouchable." Zara leaned back, her heart pounding. "So it's real. I own their world." Maya grinned. "You own the arteries. They're just the face, until you decide otherwise." Zara's eyes flicked to a photo on her desk, her with Henry, both smiling at a charity event years ago. He'd believed in her when no one else did. "Are we ready to move?" she asked. "Almost," Maya said. "We need one more board member to confirm loyalty. Elijah's working on it." Zara nodded, thinking of her cousin Elijah, who posed as her driver but was really a corporate investigator. "And Nate? Does he suspect anything?" Maya's expression softened. "He's too busy pleasing his parents. But Zara, be careful. He's not your ally right now." Zara's throat tightened. "I know." They ended the call, and Zara sat in silence, the weight of her secret both empowering and isolating. She wasn't after revenge. Not yet. But if the Rutherfords kept pushing, they'd learn the hard way. She wasn't just Nate's wife. She was their reckoning. The next morning, Zara stood in the kitchen, stirring sugar into her coffee. The penthouse was quiet, the kind of quiet that felt like a storm brewing. Nate shuffled in, his hair mussed, his tie loose. He looked at her, then away, grabbing a mug from the cabinet. "About last night," Zara said, her voice calm but firm. Did you hear what your mother said? In front of everyone. Nate sighed, pouring coffee. Yeah, I heard. She was just being dramatic. You know how she gets. Zara set her spoon down, the clink loud in the silence. Dramatic? She called me low class, Nate. She humiliated me. And you laughed. I didn't laugh, he said quickly, but his eyes wouldn't meet hers. I didn't want to make a scene. Zara stepped closer, her voice low. You promised you'd protect me. You stood there in that church and swore you'd stand by me. Was that just words? Nate's jaw tightened. Protect you from what, Zara? The world. Sure. But my family. They're not the enemy. They're just set in their ways. Set in their ways? Zara's voice rose, her composure cracking. They're trying to erase me, Nate. And you're letting them. He slammed his mug down, coffee sloshing. What do you want me to do? Yell at my mother in front of the mayor? Tell my father he's wrong? They're my family, Zara. You knew what you were signing up for. Her eyes burned, but she refused to cry. I signed up for you. For us. But you're not in this with me. You're with them. Nate ran a hand through his hair, his voice softer now. Look, I love you. But this world, it's not your thing. You've said it yourself. You hate the galas, the politics. Maybe we just need to adjust. Adjust. Zara's voice was ice. You mean I should shrink so your family feels bigger? He didn't answer, just stared at the counter. Zara grabbed her purse and walked out, her heels clicking on the marble floor. In the elevator, she leaned against the wall, her breath shaky. Nate wasn't just spineless, he was choosing them over her. But as the doors opened, she straightened. They could try to break her, but she was stronger than they knew. Zara sat in the back of her chauffeured car, the city blurring past. Elijah, her cousin, adjusted the rearview mirror, his eyes meeting hers. He wasn't just her driver, he was her eyes and ears, a former private investigator who joined her cause after Henry's death. Today, his expression was grim. Got something you need to hear, he said, his voice low. He handed her a tiny earpiece connected to his phone. Recorded this morning at the Rutherford estate. Zara slipped the earpiece in, her heart pounding. Harold's voice came through first, cold and deliberate. Nathaniel, we need to discuss your future. If you stay with her, you're out of the trust. No inheritance, no shares. Vivian's voice followed, syrupy but sharp. We'll make it worth your while, darling. A divorce, quiet and clean. We'll throw in the coastal estate and a board seat. She's not one of us. Nate's voice was hesitant. I don't know. Zara's not the problem. She's just different. Different. Harold snapped. She's a liability. You think she can handle our world? End it, or we will. The recording cut off. Zara pulled out the earpiece, her hands trembling. Elijah glanced at her. There's more, but that's the gist. They're moving fast. Zara stared out the window, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. They're trying to erase me, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Elijah nodded. They think you're a bug they can squash. But you're the one holding the magnifying glass. She managed a small smile. Call Maya. Tell her we need to accelerate. I want everything in place by the next board meeting. Done, Elijah said, his grin fierce. They're about to learn what happens when you underestimate a Monroe. Zara leaned back, her mind racing. The Rutherfords thought they held all the cards. But she was the ace, and her time was coming. The Rutherford Enterprises boardroom was a cathedral of power, its mahogany table gleaming under sleek LED lights. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline, a reminder of the empire at stake. Zara Monroe stepped inside, her navy blazer and pencil skirt understated but sharp, her heels clicking with purpose. The invitation to observe the board meeting had come from Harold Rutherford himself, delivered with a smirk that suggested she was being tested, or mocked. She knew better. This was no mistake. It was her opening. The room buzzed with executives, their tailored suits and confident murmurs filling the air. Vivian Rutherford sat near the head of the table, her crimson dress a bold contrast to the muted tones around her. Harold, at the helm, flipped through a leather-bound agenda. Nate, slouched slightly, avoided Zara's gaze as she took a seat at the far end, her presence barely acknowledged. Vivian's voice cut through the chatter as Zara settled in. "Oh, Zara, you're early. The help usually arrives later to clear the coffee cups." Her laugh was light, but her eyes were daggers. The room erupted in chuckles, a few executives exchanging amused glances. Zara's face remained serene, her hands folded neatly. "I'm here to learn, Vivian," she said, her voice calm but clear. "I wouldn't miss it." Harold raised an eyebrow, his tone dripping with condescension. "Learn? This is a bit above your usual scope, isn't it?" Zara smiled, unfazed. "You'd be surprised what I can handle." A man in a pinstripe suit, Richard Grayson, the CFO, leaned forward, smirking. "No offense, Mrs. Rutherford, but this is high-stakes strategy. We're discussing contracts worth billions. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the gala committee." The laughter returned, sharper now. Nate shifted uncomfortably but said nothing, his fingers tapping his pen. Zara's eyes flicked to him, then back to Richard. "I'm exactly where I need to be, Mr. Grayson. But thank you for the suggestion." The meeting began, and the discussion turned to a series of multi-million-dollar contracts, software upgrades, logistics networks, infrastructure deals. Zara listened intently, her pen moving across a notepad. Every contract they debated relied on the supply chain controlled by Trent Holdings, the company she secretly owned through Henry Trent's legacy. They were discussing her empire, oblivious to the woman they mocked. At one point, Vivian interrupted a logistics report. "Harold, we must ensure our suppliers align with our pedigree. No second-rate partners." Harold nodded. "Agreed. We'll vet them thoroughly. No weak links." Zara's lips twitched into a faint smile. She jotted down names, every executive, every ally, every sycophant. They thought she was invisible, a prop in their game. But invisibility was her weapon, and she was sharpening it with every word. As the meeting adjourned, Vivian approached, her smile venomous. "Did you enjoy your little field trip, Zara? I hope it wasn't too overwhelming." Zara stood, smoothing her skirt. "Not at all. It was illuminating. I'll see you at the next one." Vivian's eyes narrowed, but Zara walked out, her heart racing with quiet triumph. In the elevator, she dialed Maya Trent, her lawyer and confidant. "They're clueless," she said, her voice low. "They're handing me every piece I need." Maya's laugh was fierce. "Good. They think you're invisible. Let's keep it that way until you're ready to burn the house down." That evening, Zara sat on the balcony of their penthouse, a glass of Merlot in hand, the city lights sprawling below. The boardroom humiliation lingered, but it was Nate's silence that cut deeper. He'd watched his family degrade her, his pen tapping like a metronome of cowardice. She heard the sliding door open behind her, and Nate stepped out, his tie undone, his expression weary. "Zara, we need to talk," he said, pulling a chair beside her. She didn't look at him, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "About what? Your mother's coffee cup joke or your father's billion-dollar deals?" Nate sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Look, I know today was rough. But you don't have to go to those meetings. You're not. It's not your world." Zara's eyes snapped to his, her voice sharp. "Not my world. I'm your wife, Nate. That makes it my world. Or did you forget that part?" He flinched but pressed on. "I'm trying to protect you. My parents, they're tough, okay? They want things a certain way. And they've been talking about us." Zara set her glass down, her heart sinking. "What are they saying?" Nate hesitated, his eyes darting away. "They think we should separate. Just for a while. Quietly. They're offering a payout. Generous. Zara. And they'll give me shares, a board seat. Control. The words hit like a slap. Zara leaned forward, her voice trembling with disbelief. You're considering it? You're actually thinking about leaving me for their money. It's not about the money, Nate said quickly, but his voice lacked conviction. It's about the family. The legacy. You've said you don't like this world, the galas, the politics. I thought, maybe you'd be happier without it. Zara stood, her chair scraping against the floor. Happier? You think I'd be happier without my husband? Without the man who swore he'd stand by me? You're not protecting me, Nate. You're selling me out. Nate rose, reaching for her. Zara, I love you. I don't know how to fight them. They're my family. And I'm your wife. Her voice broke, but her eyes burned with fire. You don't fight them by abandoning me. You fight them by choosing me. He looked down, his shoulders sagging. I need time to think. Zara stepped back, her voice cold. Take all the time you want. But know this, I'm not the one who needs to choose. She walked inside, leaving him on the balcony. In her study, she locked the door, her hands shaking as she sank into her chair. Her wedding ring glinted under the lamp, a promise now tainted. But as her tears fell, her resolve hardened. Nate might bend to his family, but she wouldn't break. The next morning, a courier delivered a sealed envelope to the penthouse. Zara opened it at the kitchen counter, her coffee growing cold. The letter was from the Rutherford's attorney, a curt demand to renounce all claims to family assets in exchange for a confidential settlement. The language was sterile, but the message was clear: disappear, or we'll make you. Zara called Maya, her voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath. They sent me a gag order disguised as a check. Maya's voice crackled with amusement. Read it to me. Zara recited the key lines, and Maya laughed. This is panic, Zara. They're fishing. They know something's up with Trent Holdings, but they can't pin it down. You're a ghost they can't catch. Zara paced, the letter crumpled in her hand. They think they can buy me out. Like I'm some problem they can erase. They're scared, Maya said. Harold's been making calls, trying to trace our shell companies. He's hitting walls. Elijah's got more footage, by the way. Want to see it? Zara hesitated, then nodded, though Maya couldn't see. Send it. And tell Elijah to keep recording. I want every word, every deal, every dirty trick. Done, Maya said. What about the letter? Zara glanced at the envelope, her lips curling into a grim smile. I'm not signing anything. Let them think I'm cornered. It'll make the reveal that much sweeter. She hung up and sat at her desk, pulling up the encrypted files Maya had shared. The numbers glowed on the screen. 52% of Trent Holdings, the backbone of the Rutherford empire. She wasn't just a player, she was the dealer. And the Rutherfords had just bet against the house. Zara needed air, clarity, a reminder of who she was before the Rutherfords tried to redefine her. She drove to her late grandmother's village, a 2-hour journey to a place of dirt roads and warm embraces. The village was small, its houses weathered but vibrant with life. Children played in the fields, and elders sat under a mango tree, sharing stories. Zara parked her car and stepped out, trading her heels for sandals, the red earth grounding her. Auntie Esther, her grandmother's best friend, spotted her first. Zara, our city queen, she called, her arms wide. Zara laughed, hugging her tightly, the scent of wood smoke and jasmine wrapping around her. You look tired, child, Auntie Esther said, leading her to a bench. What's weighing you? Zara sighed, her eyes on the horizon where the sun dipped low. People who think I'm less than them. They call me low class, Auntie. They think I don't belong. Auntie Esther's face hardened. Low class? Child, you were raised on love and grit. That's the class that builds empires. Who are these fools? Zara smiled faintly. My husband's family. They want me gone. Auntie Esther took her hand, her grip firm. Your grandmother taught you to walk with your head high, no matter who tries to bow it. You're not just surviving, Zara. You're leading. Don't forget that. Children ran up, calling her Auntie Big City, their laughter pulling her from her thoughts. A girl named Lila tugged her hand. Did you really meet the mayor? Is he nice? Zara knelt, grinning. I did. He's okay. But you know who's nicer? You. Lila giggled, and Zara's heart lifted. She spent the afternoon walking the village, barefoot in the soil that raised her. At dusk, she called Maya from a quiet hill. They say I'm low class, she said, her voice steady. But this is the class that made me. And I'm bringing it with me. Maya's voice was warm. That's my girl. We're almost ready. The board's about to meet their match. Zara hung up, the stars emerging above. She wasn't just fighting for herself. She was fighting for every overlooked soul who'd ever been called less. The Rutherford Foundation Ball was the event of the season, a glittering affair at the Meridian's grand ballroom. Zara wore a deep sapphire gown, its simplicity a quiet rebellion against the ostentatious diamonds around her. She stood beside Nate, whose smile was strained, his hand barely touching hers. The room buzzed with anticipation, but Zara felt the undercurrent of judgment, the whispers that followed her every step. Vivian took the stage, her gold gown catching every light. The crowd hushed as she raised a glass. Tonight, we celebrate family, she said, her voice smooth as silk. Nathaniel will be focusing on our legacy, ensuring our future reflects the standards we uphold. The words were a knife, a public declaration that Zara was a blemish on their name. Cameras flashed, capturing Nate's awkward nod, his eyes fixed on the floor. The crowd applauded, but their glances at Zara were sharp, speculative. She felt the heat of their stares, the weight of Vivian's triumph. Zara's hands trembled, but she kept her composure. She leaned toward Nate, her voice low. Did you know she was going to say that? Nate's jaw tightened. I didn't know the wording. But it's just talk, Zara. Just talk. Her voice was ice. She's burying me in front of the world, and you're letting her. He didn't respond, his silence louder than the applause. Zara turned and walked out, her gown trailing behind her like a shadow. The cool air of the lobby hit her, but it couldn't calm the fire in her chest. She dialed Maya, her voice steady despite the storm within. It's time, Zara said. Vivian just drew the line. I'm crossing it. Maya's voice was electric. Good. The shares are locked. You own 52%. The board meeting's tomorrow. You ready to flip the table? Zara's eyes gleamed, reflecting the city lights. I was born ready. She hung up, standing alone in the lobby. The girl they called low class was about to rewrite their rules. And no one, not Vivian, not Harold, not even Nate, would see it coming. Zara Monroe stood in her penthouse, the city skyline a constellation of ambition beyond her floor-to-ceiling windows. The air was thick with the weight of what was coming. She wore a simple white blouse and black trousers, her hair pulled back, her face a mask of calm resolve. Her phone buzzed, and Maya Trent's name lit up the screen. Zara answered, her voice steady. It's done, Maya said, her tone electric. You now own 52% of the Rutherford supply chain through Trent Holdings. Every contract, every deal, they're yours. Zara exhaled, her breath fogging the glass. So this is what power feels like. Maya laughed, sharp and fierce. Like a storm you can steer. I've got the paperwork ready for the board meeting. You're not just a guest this time, Zara. You're the queen. Zara's lips curved into a small smile. Queen, huh? I'll settle for justice. She moved to her desk, where a draft letter to the board waited. It wasn't a threat or a boast, just a polite invitation to tomorrow's meeting, signed Zara Monroe, majority stakeholder, Trent Holdings. The words carried the weight of years, every insult, every sneer, every moment she'd been called low class. She sealed the envelope, her fingers steady. Nate's still clueless? Maya asked. Zara's gaze flicked to the wedding photo on her desk, her smile frozen in a happier time. He's too busy pleasing his parents. He doesn't even know I'm in the game. His loss, Maya said. What about Vivian and Harold? They suspect anything. They're sniffing around, Zara replied, thinking of the legal letter they'd sent, trying to buy her silence. But they're looking in the wrong places. Elijah's kept our tracks clean. Good. Let them sleep on their arrogance tonight. Tomorrow, they wake up to you. Zara ended the call and stood at the window, the city pulsing below. She wasn't just Nate's wife anymore, nor the girl from the village. She was the storm Henry Trent had seen in her, the legacy he'd entrusted. Tomorrow, the boardroom would be her battlefield, and she was ready to claim it. The Rutherford Enterprises boardroom was a fortress of privilege, its polished table reflecting the morning sun. Zara walked in, her charcoal suit tailored to perfection, her presence commanding despite the simplicity of her attire. The executives, already seated, froze mid-conversation. Harold Rutherford, at the head, narrowed his eyes. Vivian, in a sapphire blazer, let out a soft scoff. Nate, beside her, looked up, confusion flickering across his face. You again, Harold said, his voice a low growl. This is a closed meeting. Zara smiled, setting her briefcase on the table. Not for me. Before anyone could respond, Maya Trent stepped in, her black heels clicking, a stack of documents in hand. Good morning, Maya said, her tone crisp. Ms. Monroe is here as the controlling shareholder of Rutherford Operations, via Trent Holdings. She owns 52% of your supply chain, software, logistics, infrastructure. Everything. The room went silent, the air sucked out by the weight of her words. Gasps followed, then murmurs. Richard Grayson, the CFO, leaned forward, his face pale. That's impossible. Trent Holdings is mine, Zara finished, her voice clear and unshaken. She opened her briefcase, pulling out a single sheet. This is the consolidated share agreement, verified last night. Maya, if you'd like to distribute the copies. Maya moved with precision, placing documents before each stunned executive. Vivian's hands trembled as she snatched one, her eyes scanning the text. This is a trick, she spat. You, a nobody. You can't possibly. Careful, Vivian, Zara said, her smile icy. You're insulting the person who signs your contracts. Harold slammed his fist on the table. This is outrageous. We'd have known if someone was buying up our backbone. You didn't, Maya said, her voice like a blade. Because you never looked at the woman you called low class. Your arrogance blinded you. Nate stared at Zara, his mouth open. Zara, how? When? She met his gaze, her eyes cold. While you were laughing at your mother's toasts, I was building an empire. The room erupted in chaos, executives shouting, papers rustling, Vivian's voice rising above the din. This is fraud. We'll sue. Zara raised a hand, and the room stilled, her presence undeniable. Good morning, gentlemen. And Vivian. Shall we begin? She took Harold's seat at the head of the table, her movements deliberate. The executives exchanged glances, some defiant, others defeated. Zara leaned forward, her voice steady. We're restructuring today. Ethical leadership, transparent contracts. Anyone who disagrees can leave now. No one moved. Not yet. But the tide had turned, and Zara was its master. Zara clicked a remote, and the boardroom's projector hummed to life. The screen lit up with grainy footage, the timestamp clear, last month, at the Rutherford estate. Elijah, her cousin and undercover investigator, had captured every word. The room watched as Vivian leaned toward Nate, her voice dripping with venom. She doesn't belong, Nathaniel. Divorce her, and we'll give you the coastal estate. Shares. Power. Harold's voice followed, cold and commanding. End it, or you're out of the trust. She's a liability. Nate's response was faint but damning. I'll think about it. The footage cut to another scene. Harold bribing a supplier to undermine a competitor, Vivian laughing about keeping the help in their place. The executives shifted uncomfortably, their faces pale. Vivian leaped to her feet, her voice shrill. "That's private. You can't use this." Zara's eyes locked on her. "No. It's public now. You made it my business when you tried to erase me." Maya stepped forward, holding a tablet. "And it's admissible. We've shared copies with the SEC and the press. You might want to call your lawyers." The room was a tomb, the weight of exposure crushing every ego. Richard Grayson cleared his throat. "Ms. Monroe, perhaps we can negotiate?" Zara's smile was razor-sharp. "Negotiate? You mocked me last week, Richard. Called me the help. Now you want my mercy." He shrank back, silent. Nate, his face ashen, stood. "Zara, I didn't mean to. I didn't know." She raised a hand, cutting him off. "Save it, Nate. You chose them. Now you live with it." Vivian lunged toward her, her voice a hiss. "You think you've won? You're nothing without us." Zara didn't flinch. "I was everything before you. And I'll be everything after." The footage looped, Vivian's cruel laughter echoing. The executives began to whisper, some gathering their things, sensing the end. Zara stood, her voice calm but final. "This meeting's adjourned. We'll reconvene tomorrow, under my terms." She walked out, Maya at her side, leaving the Rutherfords to drown in their own wreckage. That evening, Zara sat in her study, the city lights casting shadows across her desk. The boardroom victory was hers, but the personal cost lingered. Nate had called her 5 times, left voicemails she hadn't opened. She didn't need his apologies, she needed closure. A knock came at the door. Nate stood there, his eyes red, his shirt untucked. "Zara, can we talk?" She gestured to a chair, her expression unreadable. "Say what you need to." He sat, his hands fidgeting. "I didn't know you were this. The shares, the power. I thought you were just low class," she finished, her voice sharp. "Go on." He winced. "I messed up, okay? I should have stood up for you. My parents, they're intense, but I love you. We can fix this." Zara leaned forward, her eyes piercing. "Fix what, Nate? You laughed when they mocked me. You considered their deal to leave me. You didn't believe in me. What's left to fix?" He reached for her hand, but she pulled back. "I was scared," he said, his voice breaking. "They're my family. I didn't know how to fight them." "And you didn't try," she said, her voice steady. "You chose their world over ours." She slid an envelope across the desk, its seal unbroken. "These are the divorce papers you were waiting for. Signed." Nate stared at it, his hands trembling. "Zara, please." "I didn't." "You didn't protect me," she interrupted, standing. "You didn't believe in me. You don't deserve me." He stood, tears in his eyes. "I see you now. I see what I lost." "Then see this," she said, opening the door. "Goodbye, Nate." He walked out, the envelope clutched in his hand, his footsteps fading down the hall. Zara closed the door, her heart heavy but her resolve unbroken. She'd lost a husband, but she'd gained herself. By morning, the world knew. Headlines screamed across every platform. Silent stakeholder seizes Rutherford empire. Billionaire protégé coup shocks elite. Zara Monroe, from low class to CEO. News channels replayed leaked clips of the boardroom footage. Vivian's cruel words dissected by pundits. Social media erupted. Hashtags like #ZaraRising and #RutherfordFall trending globally. Strangers hailed her as a hero, a symbol of the overlooked fighting back. Zara stayed silent, her phone off, her penthouse a fortress. Maya handled the press, issuing a single statement. "Ms. Monroe is focused on ethical leadership and innovation." No further comment. In the Rutherford camp, chaos reigned. Vivian canceled all public appearances, her PR team scrambling to salvage her image. Harold began selling shares, his empire crumbling under the weight of Zara's control. Nate vanished from the spotlight, his silence louder than any apology. Zara sat with Maya in her study, the headlines glowing on a tablet. "They're calling you a legend," Maya said, grinning. "The mysterious queen who took down a dynasty." Zara's eyes were distant. "I didn't want to be a legend. I just wanted to be seen." Maya touched her arm. "You are. By the world. By the village. By Henry." Zara nodded, her gaze returning to the skyline. The girl they'd mocked was now their ruler, her name on every tongue. But she didn't need their applause, she needed her truth. And she'd claimed it. Zara Monroe stood in the newly redecorated office of what was once Rutherford Enterprises' nerve center. The walls, once adorned with portraits of Harold and his ancestors, now held abstract art celebrating resilience. Bold colors, sharp lines, stories of struggle and triumph. She'd renamed the backbone company Monroe Trent Group, a quiet but seismic shift that echoed her mentor Henry Trent's faith in her and her own roots. The announcement had been subtle, a press release, a new logo, but its impact was deafening. Zara sat at her desk, reviewing a draft of the company's new ethics charter. Her laptop pinged with an email from Maya Trent, her lawyer and friend. Ethics rules approved. First resignations came in. Grayson and 2 others. Cowards jumping ship. Zara smiled faintly. She'd expected pushback, but she was ready to reshape the empire. The door opened, and Elijah, her cousin and covert investigator, stepped in, his driver's cap replaced with a tailored blazer. "You look like you own the place," he said, grinning. "I do," Zara replied, leaning back. "How's the mood out there?" Elijah sat, his expression a mix of amusement and pride. "The execs are panicking. Half are rewriting their resumes, the other half are begging to stay. Your new hires are shaking things up, those grassroots leaders you promoted? They're already pitching community projects." Zara nodded, her eyes gleaming. "Good. I want the overlooked to rise. No more ivory towers." Elijah leaned forward, his voice lower. "Vivian's been calling board members, trying to rally a countermove. She's delusional, thinks she can claw back control." "Let her try," Zara said, her tone calm but steely. "She's fighting a ghost." Their conversation was interrupted by a knock. Sarah, a young analyst Zara had promoted from the mailroom, peeked in. "Ms. Monroe, the new mentorship program's first meeting is set. We've got 20 interns, mostly from underserved areas. They're asking if you'll speak." Zara's face softened. "Tell them I'll be there. And Sarah, call me Zara." Sarah beamed and left. Elijah raised an eyebrow. "You're building a legacy, cousin. Henry would be proud." Zara's gaze drifted to a framed photo of her with Henry, taken years ago at a scholarship gala. "So is my grandmother," she said softly. "This isn't just for me. It's for them." Elijah stood, his grin fierce. "Then let's keep building. The world's watching." Zara turned back to her charter, her pen moving with purpose. The Rutherford's empire was hers now, and she was rewriting its soul. A week later, Zara sat in a private conference room, its minimalist design a stark contrast to the Rutherford boardroom's opulence. She'd agreed to meet Vivian and Harold at their request, though she knew their apology was likely a last-ditch ploy. Maya stood by the window, arms crossed, her presence a quiet warning. Zara sipped her coffee, her posture relaxed but her eyes sharp. The door opened, and Vivian entered first, her usual glamour subdued in a gray dress, her face pinched. Harold followed, his suit impeccable but his shoulders slumped, the weight of defeat visible. They sat across from Zara, the silence heavy. Harold cleared his throat. "Zara, we misjudged you." Zara raised an eyebrow, setting her cup down. "That's one way to put it." Vivian's eyes glistened, her voice trembling but calculated. "We were protecting our son. Nathaniel's our legacy. We didn't know you were capable of this." "Capable?" Zara's voice was calm but cutting. Or worthy. Vivian flinched, her hands twisting in her lap. We underestimated you. We see that now. You're formidable. Zara leaned forward, her gaze unwavering. You didn't just underestimate me, Vivian. You humiliated me. You called me low-class, plotted to erase me, bribed my husband to leave me. And now, when your empire's crumbling, you want forgiveness. Harold's jaw tightened. We're not here to grovel. We're offering a truce. Work with us. We can rebuild together. Maya let out a sharp laugh, stepping forward. Rebuild? You're selling shares to cover your debts, Harold. Your allies are gone. Zara doesn't need you. Harold's face reddened, but Zara raised a hand, silencing the room. You expect me to trust you? She asked, her voice steady. After everything? Vivian's tears spilled, her voice breaking. We were wrong, Zara. We're human. Can't you see that? Zara stood, her presence commanding. I see two people who built their world on cruelty. This isn't vengeance, Vivian. It's justice. And it's done. She walked to the door, pausing to look back. You taught me something, though. Never let anyone define my value. So thank you for that. Maya followed her out, leaving the Rutherfords in stunned silence. In the elevator, Maya grinned. You just buried them with grace. How's it feel? Zara's lips twitched. Like freedom. The doors closed, and Zara felt the weight of their words lift. She wasn't here to forgive, she was here to rise. The Grand Meridian Hotel's ballroom, once the stage for Vivian's cruel toast, was transformed for the Monroe Trent Group's inaugural gala. The chandeliers still sparkled, but the vibe was different. Warm, inclusive, alive. Zara had invited everyone. Executives, interns, janitors, community leaders. Tables were adorned with wildflowers, not orchids, and the playlist mixed classical with soul, a nod to her roots. Zara stood at the entrance in a crimson gown, its sleek design accentuating her quiet power. Guests greeted her with awe, some whispering her name like a legend. She spotted Sarah, the analyst, chatting with a group of interns, all beaming. Elijah approached, his tuxedo sharp, a glass of champagne in hand. You did this, he said, gesturing to the crowd. From the village to this. You're unstoppable. Zara smiled, her eyes scanning the room. We did this. You, Maya, Henry. It's bigger than me. Maya joined them, her black gown shimmering. The press is losing it, she said, holding up her phone. They're calling this the People's Gala. You're rewriting the rules. Zara's gaze softened. Good. Let's keep rewriting. The music paused, and Elijah took the stage, his voice warm. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's about more than a company. It's about courage, community, and a woman who turned the world upside down. Please welcome Zara Monroe. The room erupted in applause, a standing ovation before she even spoke. Zara stepped onto the stage, her heart pounding but her voice steady. Never let cruelty define your value, she said, her words resonating. Let courage do that. The crowd roared, their cheers a wave of validation. She stepped down, and Sarah approached, her eyes wide. Ms. Zara, that was incredible. I grew up like you know. No one thought I'd make it. You're why I'm here. Zara touched her arm. You're why I'm here, Sarah. Keep rising. The night continued, laughter and music filling the air. Zara stood by a window, watching the city glow. Maya joined her, her voice soft. Henry's smiling somewhere. You're his storm and his calm. Zara nodded, her eyes bright. And I'm just getting started. The morning after the gala, Zara sat in her penthouse, sunlight streaming through the windows. The headlines still buzzed. Zara Monroe redefines corporate power *, but she felt a quiet calm. She'd built something new, something hers. A knock at the door broke her reverie. A courier handed her a handwritten envelope, the scrawl unmistakably Nate's. She opened it, her fingers steady. The letter was brief but heavy. Zara, I see it all now. I see what I lost. Your strength, your heart. I was too weak to match it. I wish I'd fought for you. I'm sorry. She read it once, then set it down, her face unreadable. Maya called, her voice bright. You see the news? The gala's trending. Everyone's talking about you. Zara's eyes lingered on the letter. Good. Let them talk. You okay? Maya asked, sensing her tone. Zara stood, walking to her desk. I'm fine. Just closing a chapter. She filed the letter in a drawer, unopened after that first read. Some endings didn't need a response, they needed distance. She looked at the skyline, her reflection strong in the glass. What's next? She asked Maya. Whatever you want, Maya replied. The world's yours. Zara smiled, her voice firm. Then let's make it better. She hung up, her gaze returning to the city. Nate's words were a whisper, already fading. She was no longer the woman he'd betrayed, she was the woman she'd become. Zara Monroe's office at Monroe Trent Group was a blend of elegance and purpose. Sleek furniture, a wall of books, and a single orchid from her grandmother's village. The morning sun streamed through the windows, illuminating a stack of invitations on her desk, UN conferences, women's innovation councils, global advisory boards. Her takeover of the Rutherford empire had made her a global figure, her story resonating from boardrooms to barrios. Yet she remained selective, her focus on substance over spotlight. She sipped her coffee, reviewing a proposal for a rural entrepreneurship program, when Maya Trent burst in, her tablet glowing with news alerts. Zara, you're trending again, Maya said, her grin wide. Forbes just named you the face of ethical capitalism. The UN wants you to keynote their summit. Zara raised an eyebrow, setting her cup down. Keynote? I'm not a politician, Maya. I'm just trying to do what's right. Exactly why they want you, Maya countered, sitting across from her. You're not just a CEO, you're a movement. Look at this. She swiped to a social media post, a young woman in Lagos holding a sign that read, Zara Monroe taught me I'm enough. Zara's throat tightened. That's humbling. Humble's your brand, Maya teased, then grew serious. But you need to decide which invites to take. The world's watching, and they want your voice. Zara leaned back, her eyes drifting to a photo of her with Henry Trent, her late mentor. It's not about being the voice, Maya. It's about making space for others. The village, the interns, the overlooked, they're the ones who need to be heard. Maya nodded, her voice soft. Henry always said you were the storm and the calm. You're proving it. A knock interrupted them. Sarah, the analyst Zara had promoted, entered, her expression nervous but excited. Zara, the rural program's first pitch is ready. We've got 10 entrepreneurs from underserved areas. They want you to hear them out. Zara stood, her smile warm. Lead the way, Sarah. Let's give them the stage. In the conference room, Zara sat among the entrepreneurs, farmers, artisans, tech innovators, their faces a mix of hope and grit. A woman named Amina, who'd built a solar-powered irrigation system, spoke first. Ms. Monroe, your story gave me courage. I thought people like me couldn't dream this big. Zara leaned forward, her voice steady. Amina, people like you are why I'm here. Your dreams aren't just big, they're the future. The room buzzed with energy, each pitch bolder than the last. Zara listened, asked questions, and offered resources, her presence grounding yet inspiring. As the meeting ended, Sarah lingered. Zara, can I ask, how do you stay so calm? After everything, the Rutherfords, the media, all of it. Zara's eyes softened. I remember where I came from, Sarah. The village taught me to stand tall, no matter who tries to push you down. Sarah nodded, her voice quiet. You're my hero, you know. Zara touched her arm. You're mine. As Sarah left, Maya smirked. Told you. A movement. Zara shook her head, but her heart was full. The world was calling, and she'd answer, not for fame, but for the girl she'd been, and the future she was building. The village was alive with color and sound as Zara's car rolled down its dusty main road. Banners fluttered, children waved, and elders stood proud under the mango tree. She'd returned to her grandmother's home, not alone this time, but with a convoy of hope, scholarships, microloans, and plans for a community tech hub. The air smelled of jasmine and grilled corn, grounding her in memories of barefoot summers. Auntie Esther greeted her first, her embrace fierce. "Our queen's home," she declared, her eyes shining. The crowd cheered, children chanting, "Auntie CEO." Zara laughed, her heart swelling, and traded her heels for sandals, the red earth warm beneath her feet. "You've done us proud," Auntie Esther said, leading her to a bench. "But you look like you're carrying the world, child. What's on your heart?" Zara's gaze drifted to the horizon, where the sun dipped low. "They called me low-class, Auntie. Tried to break me. I won, but it cost me." Auntie Esther took her hand, her grip steady. "You lost a husband, but you gained yourself. Your grandmother always said, the world can take your things, but never your spirit. You're proof of that." Zara's eyes glistened, but she smiled. "I'm trying to make her proud. This," she gestured to the trucks unloading laptops and solar panels. "This is for her. For all of you." A girl named Lila ran up, her braids bouncing. "Auntie Zara, is it true you own a whole company? Like, a big one?" Zara knelt, grinning. "It's true. And you know what? One day you could too." Lila's eyes widened. "Me? But I'm just from here. Just," Zara said, her voice firm. "This village made me, Lila. It's not just anything. It's everything." The girl beamed, running off to tell her friends. Zara spent the day touring the village, meeting elders, and unveiling the tech hub, a modest building with high-speed internet and training rooms. At the ribbon cutting, she spoke to the crowd, her voice carrying over the cheers. "This is home. This is where I learned to fight, to dream, to rise. Now, it's your turn." That evening, under the stars, Zara sat with Auntie Esther, sharing stories. "You're not just our Zara anymore," Auntie Esther said. "You're the world's. But don't forget us." "Never," Zara whispered, tears in her eyes. "This is my heart." She left the village at dawn, her soul renewed. The world awaited, but her roots would always hold her steady. Back in her penthouse, Zara stood before her full-length mirror, the city skyline a glittering backdrop. She wasn't looking at her silk blouse or her neatly pinned hair, her eyes locked on her own gaze, searching for the girl she'd been. The one who'd endured whispered insults, a husband's betrayal, a family's disdain. That girl was still there, but she was joined by someone new, a woman who'd reshaped an empire and inspired a world. Her phone buzzed. Maya, checking in. Zara answered, her voice soft. "I'm okay, Maya. Just thinking. About?" Maya asked, her tone warm. Zara's eyes stayed on the mirror. "Who I am now. I fought so hard to prove them wrong, but I think I was proving it to myself too." Maya's voice softened. "You did. That girl from the village? She's a titan now. But she's still you." Zara smiled faintly. "I see her. Every scar, every win. She's enough." "Good," Maya said. "Because the world's not done with you. We've got that UN pitch tomorrow. You ready?" Zara's reflection smiled back, fierce and calm. "I'm ready." She hung up and walked to her desk, where a journal lay open. She wrote a single line. "I am enough." It wasn't for the Rutherfords or Nate, it was for her. She closed the journal, her heart steady. The mirror held no doubts now, only strength. Monroe Trent Group's headquarters buzzed with new energy. Zara had transformed the corporate culture, replacing elitism with empathy. Vivian's former office was now a mentorship lounge, its walls lined with photos of employees' families. Harold's executive suite had become a nursery, complete with cribs and toys for employee parents. Zara walked the halls, greeting staff by name, her presence a quiet revolution. In the mentorship lounge, she met with her new leadership program's first cohort, 20 young professionals from marginalized backgrounds. They sat in a circle, notebooks open, eyes eager. Zara stood, her voice warm. "You're here because you're the future. Not because of where you started, but because of where you're going." A young man named Jamal raised his hand. "Zara, how do you lead when people doubt you?" "I get that a lot, people thinking I don't belong." Zara nodded, her eyes meeting his. "I know that feeling. They called me low class, said I was nothing. But doubt's just noise. You lead by knowing your worth and proving it with action. You belong because you're here." Jamal smiled, scribbling in his notebook. After the session, Zara lingered, chatting with the group. A journalist, invited to cover the program, approached. "Ms. Monroe, your competitors call this soft leadership, nurseries, mentorship, community focus. What do you say to that?" Zara's smile was sharp. "I say strength isn't in boardroom battles, it's in remembering struggle. Cribs and mentors build loyalty, not just profit. That's the kind of empire I want." The journalist nodded, impressed. "You're changing the game." "No," Zara said, her voice firm. "I'm changing the world." As she left, Sarah caught up with her. "Zara, the nursery's a hit. My sister's using it, she says it's a game changer." Zara's eyes lit up. "Good. That's why we're here, Sarah. To make lives better." She walked on, her vision clear. The empire wasn't just hers, it was theirs. One quiet morning, Maya arrived at Zara's office, her expression uncharacteristically somber. She held a sealed envelope, its edges yellowed with age. "This came to my mailbox," Maya said, her voice thick. "It's from Henry. Written years ago." Zara took it, her fingers tracing the familiar scrawl. She opened it carefully, her heart pounding. The letter was brief but profound. Asterisk, if you're reading this, it means she made it. "Zara, you're the storm, the calm, the legacy. You've turned pain into power, doubt into dominion. Keep going. Protect her still, Maya. She's our future." Asterisk. Zara's eyes welled, and Maya's tears fell freely. "He knew," Maya whispered. "He always knew you'd be this." Zara nodded, her voice breaking. "He saw me when I couldn't see myself." She stood, walking to a shelf where a small frame held a photo of her and Henry. She placed the letter beside it, then turned to Maya. "He's why I'm here. His faith, your fight, my roots. I'm not done yet." Maya wiped her eyes, her grin returning. "Good. Because the world needs more of you." Zara framed the letter that afternoon, hanging it beside Henry's photo. It wasn't just a memory, it was a mandate. She sat at her desk, her resolve stronger than ever. The storm and the calm were one, and she was ready to lead. On a quiet evening, Zara stood on the rooftop of Monroe Trent Global, the city sprawling beneath her. The skyline sparkled, each light a story, a struggle, a triumph. She wore a simple black dress, her hair loose, her hands empty, no champagne, no entourage. Just her, the city, and the weight of her journey. Her phone buzzed, Elijah, checking in. "You good up there, cousin?" he asked, his voice warm. Zara smiled, her eyes on the horizon. "I'm good. Just taking it in." "You should," he said. "You built this. From the village to the top. You're a legend." "Not a legend," she replied softly. "Just Zara." Elijah laughed. "Just Zara changed the world. Get some rest, okay? We've got more to do." She hung up, her gaze returning to the skyline. The girl they'd called low class now signed paychecks, policies, and peace treaties. She'd turned insults into inspiration, betrayal into strength. The Rutherfords were a fading memory, their empire hers to redefine. She thought of Nate's letter, unopened in her drawer. Of Vivian's tears, Harold's defeat. Of her grandmother's voice, urging her to stand tall. Each moment had forged her, and she was grateful, not for the pain, but for the power it birthed. Zara closed her eyes, the breeze cool against her skin. "I made it," she whispered, not to the world, but to herself. The city answered with its endless glow, and she stood taller, fierce, calm, whole. "I'm glad you made it to the end. I hope you enjoyed the story."